Shoofly pie is famous in Pennsylvania Dutch country where I grew up. If you've never heard of it, it's a recipe that dates back to the 1800s. And it has a moist molasses bottom with a crumb topping. Hi, I'm Christine, and if you're new here, I want to welcome you to Christine's Natural Kitchen, where I make healthy eating delicious and simple. Now let me show you how to make this satisfying pie that is so unique, you've got to try it at least once. We're going to start out making our pastry. So I have 8 tablespoons of cold butter in here. You can use plant-based butter or whatever butter you like. And I've got 1 1/4 cups of flour ready to add to it, along with 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. Using a food processor makes this quick and easy. So add the flour and salt to the butter. And with the motor running, we're going to slowly drizzle in 1/4 cup of ice water. You want your water to be really cold. The colder your ingredients are, the flakier your crust will be. Now that we've got a ball of dough forming, we're going to turn this onto a floured board to roll it out nice and thin. Now you don't want to overwork the dough because then it will get tough, so try not to handle it too much. I'm going to sprinkle it with a little extra flour and just sort of gather it into a flat disc. And you're going to want to roll this a good size. It has to be large enough to fit into a 8 or 9 inch size pie plate. For the crumb topping, I have 1 1/2 cups of flour. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. There was also 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt in there. 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and this is firmly packed, as you can see, and 2 tablespoons of butter. So there we go. The idea is just to cut the butter in there until you have a nice crumbly mixture. And this will be our crumb topping. So now I'm going to prepare what's known as the wet bottom of the shoofly pie. This is not a traditional ingredient here. This is a 1/4 cup of pumpkin puree, but it will help to bind the filling in place of an egg. But if you do eat eggs and you want to use the traditional ingredient of an egg, feel free. And I'm adding this to 1/2 cup of blackstrap molasses. Now this is going to have a very robust, bitter taste. So I'm making it a little sweeter by combining it with a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Other people use Karo syrup, but I'm not a fan of, corn syrup, so I'm using the maple syrup instead. So you can use that as an option as well. This is a nice mild liquid sweetener. And this is 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, which will help it to rise. We're going to stir this all together, and then we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of boiling water. So now I've folded my pastry over in 4s, and it makes it easier to transport and just unfold into the pie plate. Now I'm going to tuck it in. And now if you have little uneven areas like this, it's no problem. You can just simply use a knife to just trim off part where you do have a little extra crust and just do a little patchwork. Like so. If it won't stick, you can always use a little bit of water to make it stick on there. And this is where it's fun to just make a little pattern around the edge. So however you like, you can make a little fold over like this. probably hard to see how I'm doing this. Let me get like a zoomed in shot. It ends up almost being like a braid where you're kind of lifting it up over your finger and pinching it down. Lifting it up over, kind of tucking another finger in there, pinching it over so that you get this really cute little pattern going on. So that's just one way to do it. Otherwise, you could use the tines of a fork and press that around the edge. Or just use your fingers pinched together to make a nice little pretty edge. So however you like to form the edges on your pie crust. Okay, so there we go, and we have a nicely braided trim there, and now we're just going to go ahead and fill the pie with our filling. If you see a little extra hand here, my daughter is helping to pour. So there is about 1/3 of the molasses filling. Then what you're going to want to do is add in 1/3 of your crumbs. So now we're going to shake some of the crumbs in there. This is a little portion of our... Now we're going to pour in another 1/3 of the molasses mixture. Another big spoonful of our crumbs. That's probably about a 1/2 cup or so of crumbs each time. Now, purists will say that if you want to leave a totally what they call like a wet bottom shoo-fly pie, you don't really sprinkle in the crumbs. So you don't have to do this part, but by adding the crumbs, it helps to absorb a little bit of the liquid, so it's not so jiggly. And we're going to add the rest of the molasses mixture. And finally, you'll be left with quite a bit of crumbs. We're going to add all of these crumbs on the top for the crumb topping. Now we're going to bake it at 400 for 15 minutes, then we're going to reduce the heat to 350 to bake it for another 30 minutes. I do want to caution you that as you put this in the oven, you want to be very careful because this is a jiggly pie. It's a jiggly filling, so you'll just have to be very careful and have steady hands when you put it in there. Some people like to put a baking sheet under it, but that will possibly change the baking time, so I would say you don't really need one. So here is our finished pie out of the oven, and we're gonna let it cool for a couple of hours. I know it'll be tempting to cut into it, but it's gonna set up perfectly once you let it cool at room temperature for a couple of hours. If you're a pie lover, you've just got to try shoo-fly pie at least once. It's just such a unique pie. I'll be so curious what you think of it. I hope you make one. Wasn't that fun? I love making shoo-fly pie, and now hopefully you'll be inspired to make it yourself. Let me know in the comments below, have you ever tried shoo-fly pie? Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That helps me to know what kind of recipes are your favorites so I can keep making more. And when you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll find out about new cooking videos as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Bye!